Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Leslee Gail Larson. She's been missing since June 10th in 1975 from Wolf Creek, Montana. She was only 20 years old, 5'4", about 140 to 160 pounds. Her husband, Dennis Larson, reported that his wife had slipped into Little Prickly Pear Creek and went under a fallen log, and he wasn't able to locate her. Her body was never found, however. In 1987, he was convicted of murdering his third wife while living in Maine. In 2000, he stated he had pushed Leslee into Little Prickly Pear Creek, and he was charged with her murder. In 2001, before he could be extradited back to Montana for the trial, he killed himself in prison. It says she had short brown hair, ear-level hair, a scar on her right knee, freckles. And then it gives her clothing. Her shoes were size 7 to 7.5. She wore glasses with copper frames. And there's pictures of some sort of material. It's really sad. And here's the image. There's some images of her. So she had cut her hair short. And so her body has never been found. Such a beautiful young lady. And so young. Wow. Okay, and here's the Charlie Project, and it says she was 5'4". She was wearing a yellow smock with purple, green, pink, and white flowers, so that's what color it was. So, talks about her other clothing, brown hair, hazel eyes. So sad. There's her picture of her rings. She was last seen in Wolf Creek, Montana, June 10th. Her husband said they were picking mushrooms by Little Prickly Pear Creek, about a mile from Wolf Creek. It feeds into the Missouri River, and it was swollen with spring runoff at the time. The water level was 10 feet higher than normal. According to Dennis, the riverbank gave way under her feet. She fell into the water, went under a fallen log, and disappeared. He said he jumped into the water to try and rescue her, but he was unable to find her and was nearly pulled under the water himself. When he reported what happened to Leslee, the police noticed that his clothing was dry. His clothing wasn't even wet, which was inconsistent with his story. Her body's never been found, but it's presumed that she drowned. An accidental drowning victim, but it says on the other one that he admitted he killed her. Her family was suspicious of his accounts for years. A photo of him is posted with a case summary. Leslee was Dennis's first wife. He married a second time in 1982, 6 months before she was even declared legally dead. This marriage ended in divorce. Dennis's second wife had legally adopted his and Leslee's daughter, and the child remained with her after the divorce. In October 1987, Dennis killed his third wife. Wow, his second wife was really lucky. Kathy Frost Larson in Maine. They had been married less than a month and were visiting Acadia National Park when he pushed her off an 80-foot cliff. He said at the time that she accidentally fell. He was the only witness to her death and gave contradictory accounts as to what happened, making the authorities suspicious. He said he and Kathy were taking photographs of sea otters, but otters didn't live in that area of the park. Kathy's friends also said she was terrified of heights and wouldn't have gone so close to the edge of the cliff like her husband said. Dennis moved back to Montana shortly after her death, and in February 1988, A Maine state police detective went there to interview him about the case. It was then that he admitted he had pushed her off the cliff. He was arrested, extradited back to Maine, convicted of murder, and sentenced to 50 years in prison. The authorities believe the motive was so he could collect her life insurance. He had a history of insurance fraud. He had bought a 200,000 policy for Kathy from Allstate with double indemnity in case of accidental death. Authorities reopened the investigation into Leslie's presumed death after Dennis's arrest. He had taken out a 20,000 policy on her life, also from Allstate. A former Montana Department of Justice investigator interviewed Dennis in prison in 2000. Dennis confessed that he had killed Leslie, said he pushed her into the creek and watched her drown. He said the murder was planned and he'd never gone to the river with her. He said the murder was planned and he'd gone to the river with her knowing he was going to kill her. He was charged with Leslie's murder in October 2000. He was still in prison in Maine at the time and said he was prepared to plead guilty in exchange for a 10-year sentence. But in 2001, before the case could proceed, he committed suicide in prison. Leslie was born in Great Falls, Montana, graduated from C.M. Russell High School in 1972. She completed a dental assistant training course and briefly worked for a dental office before her marriage. Her body has never been found. So don't forget to pray for her family and her loved ones, and hopefully they find her remains. Or if they have found the remains in a river somewhere, they're able to identify them and say, oh, there they are. But I don't think they've ever found them. Anyway, feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.